Men will bury the memory of their father's death quicker than they will release the memory of their stolen inheritance. Niccolo Machiavelli penned this truth half a millennium ago, and it still slices deep today because it reveals something uncomfortable. People are not governed by ideals of compassion, morality, or love. They are governed by self-preservation, by hunger for advantage, by desire for survival. Yet you have been raised under a different gospel. You have been instructed to be kind, to empathize, to wear your heart like an open wound. But tenderness is the leash that makes you easy to steer. Emotion makes you transparent. Emotion makes you predictable. And predictability makes you prey. The man who extinguishes his feelings, who looks upon life without flinching, unsettles everyone he encounters. Why? Because such a man cannot be blackmailed with guilt. He cannot be bent with shame. He cannot be shaken with fear. He has already executed the weakest version of himself, the version that bleeds for others, and in its place stands someone untouchable. This lesson is not about kindness or the illusions of morality. It is about power, survival, and clarity in a brutal world that rewards only strength. To endure among wolves, you must transform into something colder than their fangs and sharper than their instincts. You must master the art of emotional frost, the ability to stare into the storm without blinking, to decline without defending, to act without hesitation. For centuries, you've been told that caring is noble, that compassion is virtue, but society disguises vulnerability as goodness because vulnerable people are easier to manage. Machiavelli never glorified compassion. He examined what keeps rulers alive and what crushes them, and he knew the dangerous truth. Letting emotions run wild is the fastest path to ruin. Anger clouds judgment, love blinds, guilt immobilizes, fear shackles. Once these forces take hold of you, your life is no longer yours. It belongs to anyone cunning enough to tug those strings. The world recognizes softness instantly. It tastes it like blood in the water, and predators swarm. They exploit it, enjoy it, and remind you why softness is punished. The weak are consumed. The cold are respected. Every lasting empire, every victorious general, every survivor of history's harshest tests carried within them a streak of ice. They didn't whimper at betrayal, they didn't waste breath on begging, and they didn't collapse under pity. Their emptiness became their armor, and their lack of feeling became a weapon sharper than steel. Understand this clearly. Coldness is not cruelty. It is the discipline of seeing reality unclouded. It is the decision to conserve your energy for precision rather than scattering it across worthless attachments. It is the clarity to notice who is loyal, who is a liability, and who wears masks. To dwell on regret, to burn with sympathy, to drown in guilt, those are luxuries you cannot afford. Each wasted emotion is an opening for others to invade your defenses. Machiavelli knew men remember insults and losses longer than they recall favors. To invest deeply in feelings is to gift someone else a weapon they will not hesitate to turn against you. Coldness is the armor that leaves no gap exposed. When you stop reacting, manipulation shatters against your walls. When you cut fear, you move with speed. When you release pity, you cease being food for stronger appetites. That transition, stepping away from sentiment into calculated detachment, is what makes a person untouchable. But this is no casual shift. It requires brutal honesty with yourself, the willingness to admit where you've been pliable, where guilt chained you, where affection softened you. Only then can you begin stripping those weaknesses one by one. Start with the smallest cuts. Refuse to justify your choices to those who do not deserve explanations. Silence builds mystery, and mystery breeds respect. Stop chasing approval. Stop spilling your thoughts in the desperate hope of validation. Detach. Watch your feelings as if they belong to someone else. Then act with reason, not impulse. People will resist this transformation. They will brand you heartless, arrogant, cruel. Take it as proof you are breaking free. Those who depended on your warmth for their advantage are terrified by your withdrawal. And as Machiavelli understood, fear is a currency far more powerful than love. Coldness is not stupidity, nor numbness. It is sharpened intelligence, honed to pierce through chaos without distortion. It is the clean blade that never shakes. It transforms every choice into precision. You are no longer at the mercy of whims. You are no longer an easy pawn. You become decisive, unreadable, respected. You become the presence that others feel but cannot push. Now, how do you train this coldness into a weapon? It is not a personality trait. It is a skill, a craft that grows with discipline. Machiavelli didn't merely tell rulers to suppress their feelings. He outlined tactics to wield detachment like a sword. You must do the same. The first step is observation. Watch your emotions rise like waves, but do not drown in them. Instead, ask, what is the advantage if I let this feeling guide me? What is the danger? The pause itself is your shield. Most men lash out, confess, react. You will remain still, and in stillness lies power. Second, end your addiction to explanations. Stop offering your reasons to people who neither earned them nor deserve them. Every justification you give exposes the map of your thinking. Remove that map, and you become unreadable. Third, embrace strategic distance. Coldness requires removing yourself from those who drain you, who manipulate, who constantly probe for your weakness. Do not confuse isolation with loneliness. Distance is discipline. The fewer who can peer into your motives, the fewer who can stab you with them. Fourth, redirect emotion into calculated action. Anger is not to be indulged, but to be stored and sharpened into strategy. Fear is preparation disguised. Loss is fuel for reinvention. Every feeling can be converted into force, but only when you refuse to wallow in it. Fifth, detach from relationships. Even the ones cloaked in intimacy, family, friends, lovers. Emotional dependence is leverage in the hands of others. Affection is not banned, but it must never command you. Respect loyalty, but never collapse under attachment. Machiavelli's insight was ruthless. A leader loved but weak is doomed. A leader feared but shrewd endures. Apply this equally to your own life. Sixth, develop presence. Your very demeanor must radiate calm authority. Speak less, but when you do, each word must weigh heavy. Smile occasionally, but let it be deliberate, not reflexive. People are unsettled when they cannot detect turbulence behind your eyes. Your stillness becomes a form of silent command. Seventh, practice ruthless honesty with yourself. List your triggers. List the people who can wound you. Expose every irrational attachment, then begin dismantling them piece by piece. The blade that cuts your enemies must first cut your illusions. Eighth, wield fear as a tool, not as reckless cruelty. Coldness doesn't mean savagery for its own sake. It means creating hesitation in others, making them wonder what lines you are capable of crossing. People instinctively fear what they cannot control. Be that unknown. Let them know you cannot be swayed with flattery, threats, or guilt. Your composure itself becomes the specter they respect. Ninth, live deliberately. Coldness is not passivity, it is precise activity. Every move, every gesture, every choice is calculated. You will no longer be reactive clay in other people's hands. You will act like the sculptor, shaping outcomes on your terms. Ultimately, coldness is not about stripping away humanity. It is about mastering it. It is the difference between feeling emotions and being ruled by them. It is the difference between wielding fire and being burned alive by it. Those who cling to sentiment will be devoured. Those who cultivate coldness will dominate. This discipline is not merely internal. It must extend into every field of your life. At work, sentimentality is a snare. Colleagues who feign friendship are often the quickest to betray. Praise is often the front of manipulation. Coldness lets you see through the fog. When others chatter, you observe. When others panic, you calculate. In meetings, let your logic carve the path. In negotiations, let detachment give you leverage. People fear those who stay composed when the room is burning. In personal relationships, the battlefield is subtler but more dangerous. Love, affection, friendship. They are beautiful facades but can easily become tools of control. Connect when it benefits, yes, but never trade control of yourself. Betrayal is not a possibility, it is an inevitability. Detachment is the only shield. When you withhold emotional dependence, you hold the higher ground. People who expect to toy with your reactions will find themselves baffled, powerless. In social settings, coldness becomes unspoken authority. Groups instinctively test who is pliable. They poke, they prod, they watch for cracks. The unreadable man terrifies them. Few words, calm posture, rare smiles. This is how you project dominance without effort. Indifference carries weight. Silence becomes your loudest roar. In conflict, emotion is your enemy. Insults, threats, humiliation, these are designed to provoke. The weak explode in anger or collapse in fear. You will not. You will dissect, anticipate, strike when it hurts most. Revenge becomes surgical, not indulgent. Your aim is victory, not venting. Coldness ensures that your actions hit their mark with precision instead of wasting force in emotional flailing. When most people are torn between fear, attachment, and false hope, the one who has mastered detachment moves with clarity. His choices are not driven by pity or sentiment, but by calculation, by the pursuit of advantage, and by a ruthless weighing of risk. Where others hesitate, he acts. Where others allow emotion to cloud their vision, he sees only the path forward. This cold discipline strips away hesitation, regret, and the gnawing voices of self-doubt. It becomes the compass by which every move is measured. In a world overrun by people lost in their own illusions, the psychological effect of this composure is staggering. Those who cannot control their impulses find themselves unconsciously respecting, even fearing, the person who does not flinch. Absolute calm is unshakable armor. It makes manipulation collapse before it begins, and it transforms silence into an aura of power. Coldness does not need to roar or thrash violently to be felt. It spreads invisibly, like gravity, subtle but undeniable. It is the invisible throne from which true influence is exercised. Those who cling to softness disintegrate under pressure. They panic when storms strike. They collapse when betrayed. They live and die by the opinions and manipulations of others. But those who embrace coldness endure. They survive blows that break others. They thrive where the sentimental fail, and they rise while the weak wither. Coldness is not the denial of being human. It is the mastery of humanity's greatest vulnerabilities. It is the shield that makes wounds superficial, the blade that strikes only when necessary, and the fortress from which dominance is quietly secured. To wield it, one must treat every encounter as practice, every challenge as a test of resilience, every surge of emotion as energy, to be redirected, not indulged. Over time, subtle shifts appear. People stop taking liberties with you. Familiarity is replaced by deference. Fear overtakes assumptions of obedience, and influence grows not from charm, but from the iron presence of someone who cannot be moved. Machiavelli's lesson is timeless. The masses stumble blind through their emotions. but the one who sees with cold eyes stands above them. Coldness proves its worth most not in easy times, but in storms, betrayal, loss, manipulation, injustice. These are inevitable. And here the weak unravel. They rage, they cry, they crumble. But the cold do not flinch. They convert adversity into fuel, setback into leverage. They view every betrayal not as a surprise, but as confirmation of human nature. Machiavelli understood that people, at their core, act in their own interest. To expect otherwise is to invite disappointment. To expect betrayal is to strip it of its sting. Once you anticipate treachery as fact rather than possibility, you free yourself from shock and hurt. You see people not as saints or demons, but as predictable actors in pursuit of their gain. Where the weak scream at the unfairness of it all, the cold nod knowingly and adapt. The cold man does not meet betrayal with theatrics. He does not beg, rage, or lash out impulsively. Those reactions only reveal weakness and invite further exploitation. Instead, he absorbs the strike, examines it, and plans. He waits until retaliation serves strategy, not pride. He acts with surgical precision, never wasting energy on displays of anger. This stillness terrifies because it is unreadable. Silence can frighten more than fury because it suggests calculation, not loss of control. Adversity, to the cold, is not just endured, it is transformed into power. Every insult is information. Every act of deception is intelligence gathered. Every betrayal is a map of human weakness revealed. Where others waste time licking wounds, the cold refine strategy. They forge power out of cruelty itself. Fortune does reward the bold, as Machiavelli declared, but boldness guided by emotion is recklessness. Boldness guided by cold clarity is invincible. Another crucial law of coldness is detachment from outcomes. When a plan crumbles, when allies falter, when fortune slips away, most are undone by despair or rage. Their judgment is poisoned. They spiral. But the cold adapt. They do not marry themselves to a single outcome. If a deal collapses, they pivot. If a relationship ends, they realign. If fortune turns, they turn with it. This is not indifference, it is dominance over frustration and despair. In chaos, others sink into helplessness. The cold rise because they see opportunity where others see only catastrophe. Control of perception is equally vital. Humans test boundaries constantly, probing for weakness. The moment they see fear, anger, or desperation in you, they know how to strike again. The cold man refuses them that satisfaction. His demeanor remains unbroken, even in surprise. He projects invulnerability, and in doing so, he forces doubt into the minds of others. When people cannot read you, they hesitate. When they hesitate, they cede power. This is why composure terrifies. It amplifies uncertainty and makes your enemies question themselves before they act. Betrayal itself becomes a teacher. The cold do not waste energy on outrage or self-pity. They ask questions instead. What truth about this person has been revealed? What mistake allowed them such access? What changes must be made to prevent it again? Pain becomes education. Every disappointment is a sharper understanding of loyalty and deceit. Where others sink into bitterness, the cold man refines his craft. Emotional invisibility is perhaps the strongest armor of all. People manipulate because they think they can sense weakness, desire, or fear. Remove all traces of this, and their schemes collapse. If they cannot tell whether you are wounded or angry, their manipulation becomes futile. Coldness makes you unreadable. The less they know of your inner state, the less power they hold. Invisibility turns you from a pawn into a phantom present, feared but never grasped. Retaliation, too, is transformed. The weak lash out at every slight, wasting their energy to protect their pride. The cold strike only when it multiplies advantage. Every act of retaliation sends a message, and the message must be calculated. Crossing you carries cost. Pride is irrelevant. Control is everything. The cold act not to soothe their ego, but to remind the world that their boundaries are edged with steel. Ultimately, coldness is relentless self-preservation. Those who are ruled by their feelings are exposed. They are predictable, easy to push, easy to break. The cold cut those strings. They owe no one their loyalty except themselves. They protect their clarity like treasure because it is clarity that ensures survival. Machiavelli's truth echoes here. Better to be feared and respected than to be loved at the price of weakness. The world has no hesitation in exploiting softness, no pause in betraying the sentimental. The weak become victims, the cold become untouchable. Coldness is more than survival, it is dominance. Adversity becomes fuel, betrayal becomes data, chaos becomes opportunity, and the cold become the rare figures who dictate outcomes rather than being crushed by them. This is not cruelty, it is mastery of self. To control your emotions is to control your fate. To control your fate is to control the world around you. But there is a final transformation beyond practice and discipline. It is the step where coldness ceases to be a skill you use and becomes the foundation of who you are. This is permanent mastery, the invisible crown that commands deference without words. To achieve this, coldness must be internalized as identity. It cannot be switched on and off at convenience. It must guide every decision, every judgment, every interaction. Once embedded in your core, no amount of provocation can shake you. You live above chaos, while others drown in it. That existence is terrifying to those enslaved by feeling, because it is untouchable. With mastery, you also learn subtle projection. The most powerful presence is not one that shouts, but one that radiates quiet certainty. A calm gaze amid panic, a measured response when tempers explode, an unflinching silence when provoked. These subtle signals instill fear and respect more effectively than any overt threat. People cannot explain why they obey you, why they follow your lead, why they feel unsettled in your presence. But the truth is simple. Coldness commands instinctively. Relationships, too, become instruments, never chains. Love, friendship, loyalty. These can be useful, but they must never enslave. Others may believe they influence you, but the truth remains hidden. You allow only what serves you. When connections cease to serve, you sever them without hesitation. Your freedom, your autonomy, your sovereignty, these are not negotiable. Coldness ensures they are never surrendered. Life itself becomes training. Every insult, betrayal, failure is fuel to sharpen your detachment. Pain no longer matters. Lessons do. Setbacks no longer sting. They strengthen. You refuse to indulge anger or despair. You analyze, adapt, and strike only when the time is right. The world's constant attempt to manipulate you becomes laughable because their methods fail against your armor. Their schemes fall apart, while your influence grows quietly, inexorably. At this level, coldness creates not just fear, but awe. Machiavelli observed that fear outlasts love, but fear alone is not enough. Fear must be fused with competence, with authority, with mystery. Coldness becomes the force people respect, follow, and avoid crossing. Your presence makes them doubt their own power. Your silence makes them question their own strategy. This is domination not by noise, but by unshakable stillness. The final outcome is freedom. The masses are prisoners of their feelings. They are tossed by desire, crippled by fear, addicted to approval. You, by contrast, are free. free to act without chains, free to move without hesitation, free to shape outcomes without being shaped. This is the apex of human strength, a life lived not in reaction, but in mastery. Coldness is not the death of humanity, it is the conquest of it. Those who drown in sentiment remain pawns forever. Those who sharpen coldness become kings. Influence, fear, and respect follow them effortlessly. Their silence speaks louder than words, their calm steadier than armies, their detachment stronger than any chain. This choice lies before you. Remain weak, predictable, and prey to others, or embrace coldness fully, master it ruthlessly, and rise above all who remain slaves to their own feelings. If you do, you will discover what few ever do. That true power is not rage, not affection, not charm. True power is clarity. True power is control. True power is coldness. And in decision-making, coldness provides the sharpest lens. Choices made from passion are crooked, distorted. Choices made from stillness cut straight. With detachment, you see opportunities others miss, threats others ignore, and you act while they hesitate. This is dominance hidden in plain sight. Remember this above all: coldness is not the erasure of humanity, it is its conquest. It is using emotions as instruments rather than being used by them. It is survival sharpened into clarity, control, and authority. Those who stay soft will be devoured by wolves. Those who become cold as stone will endure, command, and bend the world. Coldness is not the end. It is the weapon, the shield, the throne. And once you master it, you step into a realm few ever dare to enter, the realm of unshakable power.